Hi, here I am sitting at my desk, at my computer, reading over a dozen or so journal entries that I made during a divine feminine goddess sexuality workshop led by the esteemed Sandra Greenfield. I attended this workshop over the summer during major life changes for me and learned about the truth of the goddesses that had lived and were worshipped many, many years before Christianity or any of our modern religions. And so as part of this workshop, I learned about many different goddesses, and it was a workshop focused on sexuality as well, which was a hugely transformative experience for me as a sufferer of childhood sexual abuse and trauma. My mother, I guess I'll just start reading the journal entries and you'll get a feel for why this had such a big impact on me. The reason that I'm sharing it today, despite my clammy hands and feeling really scared to be this vulnerable with you, I've already cried once reading through these journal entries. Hopefully I will get through it without crying again. The reason that I'm sharing this with you today is because on Saturday I am leading a goddess empowerment workshop here in Wolfboro, New Hampshire, and this workshop was inspired all these months ago by Sandra's workshop that I attended. So now I have internalized all of these teachings and am offering my own version of the empowering stories of the goddesses and my own interpretation of why this is so important as the divine feminine is rising here on our planet. So the event that I am leading is on Saturday at Viva Soul Studio, which is a newly opened studio here in Wolfboro underneath Olympia Gym. You can still register for the event, but even if you're not interested in the event, I encourage you to stay with me and listen to what a profound impact the discovery of divine feminine has had on me as a woman, as a human, as a mystic, as a spiritual teacher. So I'll get into it right now. I'm not going to necessarily read them in any particular order, but I did highlight some parts of my journal entries from this past summer when I was attending the Divine Feminine Goddess Sexuality Workshop. So one of the first journal entries, journal prompts that we were asked was, what would it have been like to grow up in a world where the divine was imagined as female? So of course I talk about Brene Brown right off the rip. Brene Brown would call this wholeheartedness. If the divine was intrinsically and culturally female, vulnerability would have always been a strength. Authenticity would be the status quo. We would all, men, women, the entire gender spectrum, be more wholehearted, courageous, and empowered to be our own authentic self. When we are wholehearted, we do not feel the need to control, dominate, or change anyone else. We stand in our own expression of self with joyfulness and acceptance. I believe that all judgments about others, all reactions of fear, hatred, violence, anger, are expressions of our own fragmented and hidden away shadow, which is that part of us that was not embraced or rewarded or was victimized at some earlier point in life. If we existed in harmony and acceptance of ourselves, we would not experience the intensity of violent reactions that cause domination, disempowerment, wars, and, dare I say, capitalistic greed. If we knew that the divine was complex, emotional, vulnerable, authentic, strong, nurturing, an expression of love and feminine aspects, if we valued intuition and wisdom over speaking and doing, we would lead more peaceful and autonomous lives. The need to dominate and control is a direct reaction to feeling disempowered and out of control. Only those who are out of touch with their innermost selves, who are hurting and wounded, feel the desperate need to regain their power by victimizing, enslaving, and pillaging. The lie of supreme divine masculine is a fractionated mistruth that was created to disempower and divide humanity against itself. We have trained men and boys, and even other women, to numb, shield, reject, judge, and defy. This is not in harmony with our true complex nature. Because of this, the entire world is out of balance, and we are all suffering. These are excerpts from, again, for those of you who are just now joining, these are excerpts from journal entries from a Divine Feminine Goddess Sexuality workshop that I attended this summer. Again, the lie of supreme divine masculine is a fractionated mistruth that was created to disempower and divide humanity against itself. If the divine was imagined as female, it would have been a magical journey of continued self-development. Food and resources would have been shared. The sick, frail, and wounded would have been embraced and nurtured rather than ostracized. We would have been free and encouraged to explore and develop our personal passions and talents without such harmful emphasis on security, because security would have never been called into question in the first place. These are my imaginings of what it would be like to live in a world, grow up in a world where the divine was feminine. There would be more music, art, dancing, less work, war, division. Beauty and life would be valued above domination and obedience. Our romantic relationships would be more fulfilling and less dictated by necessity. Everyone would have food, shelter, clean water, and freedom. The earth herself would be considered sacred and would be an object of our devotions and an instrument of pleasure. If the divine was female, we would never have embarked on the mission to conquer. If the divine was female, we would have never embarked on the mission to conquer. The lioness does not kill the entire herd of antelope when she is hungry. She takes only what she needs. Abundance mentality would rule. There is more than enough for everyone. So that was my first journal entry. What would the world have been like if we'd grown up with the divine imagined as female? Whew, so let's get into some of the more personal and less philosophical journal entries here. Again, I'm reading journal entries from a Divine Feminine Goddess workshop that I attended with Sandra Greenfield this past summer. So the next journal excerpts that I'll be reading comes from a prompt. Think about your own religious quest as a woman. What values, beliefs, and attitudes from the past do you choose to reject? I write, I reject my attachment to the Christian male God. I reject the standards of beauty, grace, humility, perfection, and purity. I will not hold on to the idea of myself as an object anymore. I see the divine with more femininity and intend to cultivate a relationship with this power in my body, in my heart, in my practice. I am also releasing even more any blame that I held for men. Men, please hear me. The divine feminine rising on the planet is about you too. I write, I am also releasing even more any blame that I held for men. I can feel in my heart an exquisite sadness for the men and boys who have been raised with a half-true, distorted divinity. I will hold space for the divine feminine to restore wholeness, balance, and abundance to all people. I release the nagging feeling that one day I'd have to turn back to the male God. In fact, I release any yearning I held that pulled me to seek religion in the first place. Goddess lives within me and everything. Like Yemaya, I see myself reflected in the ocean, moon, and eyes of the people. My eyes and heart are wide open. That was on rejecting old ideas of divinity. What else do we have? All right, we're getting deeper now. We're getting more personal. This is about me and my past. Again, journal entries from a Divine Feminine Goddess workshop, Goddess Sexuality workshop that I attended last summer. So this journal question was, how have the images about women in our culture affected your perception of yourself as a woman? Yikes. When I was a teenager, my super toxic stepmother and stepsisters were ultra critical of themselves and each other. I weighed myself daily, put harsh chemicals and prescriptions on my skin, dyed and straightened my hair, got my nails done with acrylics, went tanning, wore gobs and gobs of makeup. But one day I realized that I wanted to just be me. I didn't want to hate myself anymore. I went on a beauty detox. I stopped wearing makeup altogether, let my hair be natural. I stopped weighing myself. To this day, it has been 15 plus years since I have weighed myself or been aware of my weight, even through my pregnancy. And it has been the best decision. I buy new clothes when I notice my old ones don't fit anymore, and I hardly look at the sizes. I wear what makes me feel good. I still don't wear much makeup, clearly. I don't dye my hair, I don't do my nails, or any of that other required maintenance. However, and let me just stop and say, I know that that can be very empowering for people. Like if you love doing your hair and nails and wearing makeup, like awesome. That's really empowering for you and go for it. It's not for me. It just didn't work for me. Although sometimes I still wear makeup, not gonna lie. However, from an early age, I was objectified. I suffered sexual abuse by a handful of different men. I had my life threatened multiple times. I was given into the bed of abusers by my own mother, and had my father figure praising my developing body as my greatest and most attractive quality. I have been repeatedly and disgustingly sexually harassed. I've even had peers surprise me with their dicks in all sorts of professional environments. My boss emailed me porn years ago. I learned to laugh it all off. Again, journal entries from a Divine Feminine Goddess Sexuality workshop that I attended this summer. How have the images about women in our culture affected my perception of myself as a woman? Moving on. This is getting crazy. More intimate. During this workshop that I attended with Sandra Greenfield this past summer, I learned about goddesses. I learned about the Divine Feminine and met some of these goddesses through meditation. And that's one thing that I'll be doing with my workshop this weekend, is sharing the stories of some of my favorite goddesses with people. So a journal entry that I was asked to, or a journal prompt that I responded to this past summer, was about the goddess Yemaya and what I learned about her. The question was, what are some of your thoughts and feelings about your body that the story of Yemaya evoked? I write, the story of Yemaya's finding her reflection in the ocean, stars, and moon resonated deeply with me on a spiritual level. But this is a question about my body. We had to draw ourselves naked. Am I really gonna do this? All right. This is all about honesty, right? This is what I drew. Yeah, I'm not an artist. Drawing myself naked was a challenge. I made sure to include the new belly button in its worn out shape, post carrying my child. The scar beneath where he had to be cut out and removed, and the lines between that popped up a week after he was due, but still hadn't come. Motherhood changed my body. Before I became pregnant, I operated under the unspoken rule that my body was for the pleasure of men. It was obvious to me that the way I looked attracted men, even those I thought were too beautiful for me. The sway of my hips, how I danced and dressed and conducted myself were all unconsciously geared toward attracting and pleasing men. This I learned from my mother very early on, as she prostituted herself and allowed me to be abused by some of her partners. One day when I was 6 or 7 years old, I asked her, my mom, how do you know what to do when you're having sex? Oh, by then I understood the mechanics, but I wasn't sure how the chemistry of it went. She answered, you just go with the flow. And holy shit, if that wasn't the most disempowering, fucked up message, I went with the flow, aka acquiesced to the desires of men for my entire life until I carried my son inside my body. Even when I realized I was pregnant, I was terrified. I felt betrayed. I was under obligation to birth a son now. Luckily, this was also a turning point for me. I surrounded myself with empowered women. I joined a red tent group, hired a midwife and a doula. I invited my sister and my cousin to come for the summer. I took on a daily meditation practice. I touched myself. I spent so much time in self-care and self-discovery. Those resources, by the way, are still out there. Red Tent, Wild Woman Wellness Center, Carolyn, You've Changed My Life, my doula, Corinne White, my midwife, Kate Hartwell. Please, if you feel any of the ways that I have felt, reach out to other women. Reach out to a community. I write at the end of this journal entry, sex isn't about going with the flow. My beauty is not wrapped up in the desire of men. My pleasure is a spiritual experience that is mine to harness, enjoy, and pursue. At least, this is the new story I am telling. One day, I hope to believe and embody it as truth. Heavy stuff. And that's part of why I want to share this with you. This whole thing, all of these journal entries, me ripping myself open right now live on Facebook and sharing this stuff with you, is all to say to you, I want to share these truths. I want other people, all genders, to recognize that there is so much depth to divinity, so much importance in the divine feminine, so much empowerment to be had when we embrace the goddess, that you can be free of these limiting beliefs, just like I am becoming free of these limiting beliefs. And that's why this workshop has come to life for me. Okay. Next journal entry. Understanding of the divine. What kind of understanding of the divine do you have? Is it changing, and why? I write, my understanding of and connection to divinity is in constant evolution. I believe that realities, divinities, people, timelines, energies exist in and around, on top of, and in between, simultaneously among and intertwined with each other. At the most simplistic level, my understanding of the divine is a source of love and collective consciousness. The universe, source energy, light, God, goddess, call it whatever. That is the star stuff that ties everything together. I believe we as humans are embodied with a spark of this divine consciousness. and the task of experiencing to grow the capacity for love. I believe that we are all embodied with a spark of divine consciousness and tasked to experience. And all of this is to grow our capacity for love. It sounds abstract, but it's so simple. When I break it down further, I see divinities or deities all around us. I believe Gaia, Mother Earth, is a sentient and spiritual being whose evolution we humans are all linked to and in. I believe that she is, and we are, waking up and ascending into a less dense, more aware, more magical, or energetically capable existence. I believe the goddess's energy is real, accessible, present, and powerful. I myself have called upon the goddesses and felt them usher in with their specific vibrational signatures and talents. Why can't it all be true, together, with, and for, and of? Chaotic multiverse theory says that this all exists in a swirling, unimaginable tapestry of light and experience, and today, that feels good and right to me. Simultaneously, I believe that we are all waking up and evolving together, and that our consciousness collectively and individually has a great impact on what manifests spiritually and physically. So in a way, whatever people choose to believe is true and will be. I am practicing being in a state of allowing and inviting the feminine to rise and heal us all. And that's part of what I'm doing on Saturday, is inviting the divine feminine to rise and empower us all. I think I have one more. This is a long video. Oh, I have two more. Thank you so much for joining me for this, for listening to these journal entries, for trusting me, holding space for me to share these things. So, the second to last journal entry that I'll share with you today from the Divine Feminine Goddess Sexuality workshop that I attended with Sandra Greenfield this summer. The last question was, consider the attitudes our society takes toward young women, toward mothers, toward older women. How have these attitudes touched you directly? What have you felt about them? I'm not going to read all of this. I did write a book, so you're welcome to read that. It's called Finding Starlight, not published yet. Soon it will be, hopefully. Looking for an agent. Somebody tell Oprah. All right. So I basically journal a lot in answer to this question about promiscuity, drugs and alcohol, about the way that I presented myself in my 20s, just being totally objectified and giving up my power constantly. And so I then talk about now as sort of a different stage as a mother, how that has shifted. And I write, I feel that presenting myself in this way, the way that I truly am, has given me the power to hold the vibration that I want to attract. I have a no bullshit, total honesty, high bar attitude that says, this is who I am and what I want. And there will be no more compromises. Do I think the world is ready for this? Not our patriarchal society that has a drama playing on the world stage, but the actual world of humans waking up and ascending into the next wave of existence is ready for this rising of femininity. I know this to be true in my heart and my soul, and I am dedicated to living it in my life for real this time, both out in the world and in my bed. Yikes. Last one. Last journal entry. So after this workshop was over, after we finished the Divine Feminine Goddess Sexuality workshop this past summer, we had a couple of weeks to think and reflect, and then one final journal entry was asked of us. And the question was, where are you now about the existence of female God? Excited! I'm excited! And then I go on to say, I'm not entirely ready to genderize what I call source energy altogether, but I do believe there are many layers of divinity, and the goddesses are immensely important and powerful. These goddesses have such depth and complexity in comparison to male narratives. It is breaking my heart for men everywhere. I realize that's probably not a very feminist thing to say, but I do love all people and genuinely believe that men have had a hard go of it as well. Their divinity is stricken from them as young babies just as much as ours as women is from us. Sure, culture prioritizes them and gives them massively undeniable privilege, but it's at the cost of wholeness. We all suffer. In terms of my acceptance of the female God, I am fully in it. Truth feels a certain way, and I embrace it when it appears. What concerns me the most is the inaccessibility to these pure original tales of goddesses. Are they lost? And I finish with this sentence. Perhaps there is space for me in this, and one day I will rewrite them, like Neil Gaiman did, with Norse mythology. I am a writer. Will that be my next book? Stay tuned. So I have a bunch more that I didn't read to you all, really personal stuff about myself that I have learned. And this weekend's workshop that I am leading, the Goddess Empowerment event at Viva Soul on Saturday afternoon, there is still space to register. The event that I'm leading is not about sexuality. We're not going to delve into these topics that I just read to you today, but I wanted you to know how and why I became so inspired to teach about the goddesses, how and why it became so deeply important to me to share this knowledge. The Goddess Empowerment event this weekend, during that event, I will be introducing you to some of these goddesses. We'll learn about Yemaya, Pele, Gaia, Persephone, Mary Magdalene. We're going to be meditating, moving, chanting, and reading cards. We'll have a ceremony to release some of the limiting beliefs that we have that keep us from being fully ourselves. And this event, as I've spoken to, as I've touched on in this video, isn't just for women. It's for all genders, because I truly believe that the divine feminine is for all of us, that we rise together, that we are rising together. And man, Goddess, if there is anything that I can do to help us rise, I'm here to do that. That is my mission. And I'm still in it. I'm still in it with you. All I can do is share my story and hope that by doing so, it inspires you to heal your own. So thank you very much for listening. Again, if you want to see any more of my work, my website is brittanybowles.com or magicalyoga.org. I did write a book that I'm still looking for representation to get published called Finding Starlight, that details some of these things, my early childhood trauma and the way that I came back into wholeness and discovered my light. And this weekend at Viva Soul Studio in Wolfboro, New Hampshire, I'm hosting the Goddess Empowerment Workshop. There is still space to register. You can find the event here on Facebook or at on the Viva Soul Facebook page or on any of my websites. Thank you so much for watching this today. And as always, you can reach out to me directly for more information, for clarity, for healing. I am a Reiki master, a light worker, an energy healer. So I'm here for you. Thank you. I love you. We rise together.